Lizzie Borden took an axe, or did she? The year is 1892, and in the quiet town of Fall River, Massachusetts, a crime so shocking it becomes a nursery rhyme unfolds. The brutal deaths of Andrew and Abby Borden inside their own home ignite a media firestorm. The prime suspect? Their unmarried 32-year-old daughter, Lizzie. But the jury would ultimately acquit her. The reason? They couldn't believe a respectable, church-going gentlewoman who fainted at the sight of her father's skull in court could be capable of such a horrific act. Was she an innocent woman trapped in a nightmare, or a cunning manipulator who played society's expectations like a fiddle? By the end of this investigation, we'll uncover a piece of evidence hidden in plain sight, a detail so overlooked it could change how you see this entire case. To understand what happened on that sweltering August morning, we have to travel back to Fall River in the late 19th century. This was a city of stark contrasts. Immense wealth from the textile mills existed alongside grinding poverty. The Bordens were wealthy, but they were famously, almost painfully, frugal. Andrew Borden, Lizzie's father, was a self-made millionaire, a property developer, and a bank president. Yet he chose to live in a modest house on 2nd Street, a far cry from the opulent mansions on the hill where the city's elite resided. The house lacked modern plumbing, a luxury even middle-class families were beginning to enjoy. This tension between wealth and austerity created a pressure cooker environment within the Borden home. Lizzie and her older sister Emma were unmarried women or spinsters, entirely dependent on their father. They had social standing, but lacked financial independence. Adding to the friction was their stepmother, Abby Borden. Lizzie and Emma never truly accepted Abby, whom they saw as a social inferior who married their father for his money. They pointedly referred to her as Mrs. Borden, never mother. The family dynamics were strained, to say the least. Days before the incident, the entire household fell violently ill. Abby feared they were being poisoned. Was this paranoia, or a chilling prelude to what was to come? The stage was set for a tragedy. On the morning of August 4th, 1892, the timeline begins to blur. Andrew Borden left for his business dealings downtown. The only people left in the house were Abby, Lizzie, and the maid, Bridget Sullivan. Around 9:30 a.m., Bridget was outside washing windows. This is our first critical window of time. Abby was upstairs in the guest room, making the bed. Sometime within the next hour, she was met with a horrific attack, struck multiple times with a hatchet-like weapon. Her body wouldn't be discovered for nearly 2 hours. Andrew Borden returned home around 10:45 a.m. Finding the front door jammed, he entered through the side. He spoke with Lizzie, who told him Abby had received a note and gone out to visit a sick friend. Andrew then lay down on the living room sofa for a nap. This is our second critical window. Bridget, having finished her window washing, went up to her attic room to rest. Less than 30 minutes later, around 11:10 a.m., Lizzie shouted for Bridget, "Maggie, come quick, Father's dead." Somebody came in and killed him. Andrew Borden had been attacked on the sofa, struck repeatedly while he slept. The police arrived to a scene of confusion and contradictions. Lizzie's story was inconsistent. First, she was in the kitchen, then the dining room, then out in the barn loft, looking for lead sinkers for a fishing trip she wasn't even planning. Her demeanor was strangely calm, almost detached, for someone who had just discovered her father's body. The police search of the house was surprisingly inept. They overlooked a crucial piece of evidence in the basement, a hatchet head, freshly washed and coated in ash, missing its handle. The files reveal the officers were so overwhelmed by the scene and the family's social standing that their investigation was far from thorough. One of the most damning yet circumstantial pieces of evidence came days later. A neighbor saw Lizzie burning a dress in the kitchen stove. Lizzie claimed she was destroying it because it was stained with paint. But the prosecution would argue she was destroying a dress stained with something far more incriminating. Why burn a dress in the middle of a hot August week, especially when you are the primary suspect in a double homicide? This act, more than any other, cemented public suspicion. The trial was a spectacle. Lizzie Borden, the quiet Sunday school teacher, became a national obsession. The all-male jury was a product of their time, steeped in Victorian ideals of womanhood. They saw Lizzie as frail, pious, and emotionally delicate. When the prosecution presented her father's skull as evidence, she fainted. This reaction, whether genuine or theatrical, powerfully reinforced the jury's perception of her as a gentle lady. The defense argued that no woman, especially one of her class and upbringing, could possess the physical strength or the cold-blooded rage to commit such a brutal act. It was simply unthinkable. Psychologically, her behavior is a fascinating study in composure and control. If she was innocent, her calmness could be attributed to shock and disassociation, a mind protecting itself from unbearable trauma. But if she was guilty, that same calmness becomes evidence of a chillingly composed and calculating personality. This wasn't a crime of passion in the heat of the moment. It was two separate attacks, an hour apart, requiring patience, planning, and an almost superhuman ability to conceal emotion. Could a lifelong resentment of her father's, pest control, and her stepmother's presence have finally boiled over into an explosion of methodical violence? Her acquittal left these questions hanging in the air, unanswered. Lizzie and Emma inherited their father's fortune and moved to a large, modern mansion on the hill, the very neighborhood they had longed to live in. They named the house Maplecroft, but Lizzie was never free. She was a social outcast in Fall River, ostracized by the very high society she sought to join. She lived the rest of her life in gilded isolation, a prisoner of her own infamy. The case was officially closed, but the mystery was far from solved. Now, for the detail hidden in plain sight. Remember the note Lizzie said her stepmother received, calling her away to a sick friend? The police never found that note. No one ever came forward claiming to have sent it. It was a complete fabrication, a lie Lizzie told her father just minutes before he was killed. This lie served a crucial purpose. It explained Abby's absence and bought the killer precious, uninterrupted time with Andrew. This single, calculated lie, told at the most critical moment, is perhaps the strongest indicator of a premeditated plan. It's the one piece of the puzzle that points directly to a mind actively covering its tracks. So, what is your theory? Was Lizzie a cold, calculating killer who got away with it, or a victim of circumstance, forever haunted by an unsolved family tragedy? Mark the evidence by liking this video, and in the comments below, join the investigation and post who you think the real killer was. To access the next case file and continue our search for the truth, make sure you are subscribed. There are always more secrets waiting to be unearthed.